What if I told you the scariest truths about women are not the ones you see, but the ones you never notice? The scariest part? She reads you before you speak. I've been thinking we often say men should always be the strong, silent rock in a relationship. And yes, Stoicism teaches discipline, composure, and emotional control. But here's the controversial truth. Sometimes, men hiding every single emotion isn't strength, it's actually weakness. Because if you never show vulnerability, how can someone truly connect with you? Women don't just respect composure, they also respect authenticity. And maybe the scariest psychological fact about women isn't that they test men's strength. It's that they can sense when you're faking it. Now, I'm not saying men should pour their hearts out every second. But I believe real stoicism isn't about suppressing everything. It's about controlling your emotions without denying you even have them. What do you think? Do women respect a man more when he never shows emotion, or when he shows just enough to prove he's human? I know this will divide opinions, so drop your thoughts below. I really want to hear where you stand. Alright, let's dive into the first scary psychological fact about women. And trust me, this one is chilling once you really understand it. Women are masters of micro-expressions. What does that mean? It means they can read your emotions in milliseconds, faster than you can even realize you're showing them. Think about this. You walk into a room, you've had a rough day, but you're trying to mask it with a smile. She knows. Without you saying a word, she senses the tension in your shoulders, the slight twitch near your eye, the faint delay in your laugh. It's almost like a superpower. And the scary part? You can't fake it. Scientists have shown that women, on average, are significantly better at decoding micro-expressions than men. These are tiny, involuntary flashes of emotion that slip across your face before you can control them. A half-second flicker of anger, a momentary flash of doubt, or even suppressed excitement. You may think you hid it, but she's already seen it. Now, why does this matter? Because Stoicism teaches us to control our inner world, not just the mask we present. If your internal state is chaos, she will know. You cannot trick someone who has been wired by evolution to notice danger, lies, or weakness in the blink of an eye. Picture this. A man enters a date determined to look confident. He puts on a big smile, cracks a few jokes, and orders his drink. But deep inside, he's nervous, desperate to impress, and worried she won't like him. Within minutes, she reads the tiny cracks in his armor, his nervous laughter, his darting eyes, his forced calm. By the end of the night, she's polite but distant. She may not even know consciously why she's lost interest, but her subconscious already decided. He wasn't grounded. He wasn't steady. His emotions betrayed him before his words ever could. Now compare that with another man. He walks in, also nervous inside, but he's practiced stoic awareness. He notices the tension in his chest, takes a breath, and grounds himself in the present. Instead of fighting the nerves, he accepts them calmly. His voice is steady, his eyes are direct, his presence feels unshaken. She reads him too, but this time she sees alignment. His inner world matches his outer world, and that creates trust, attraction, and respect. The Stoic lesson here is clear. Control begins within. Women don't just listen to your words, they absorb the silent signals of your state. And if you don't master yourself, they will know before you ever realize you've given yourself away. Now let's move into the second fact, and this one might hit even harder, because you've probably experienced it without even realizing. Women subconsciously test men's emotional strength through what I call minor chaos. What does that look like? Maybe it's a sarcastic comment, a small disagreement, or even a sudden shift in tone. It's not always deliberate. Often, it's subconscious. Her way of sensing whether you're truly stable or just pretending to be. And here's the scary truth. If you crumble under small storms, she will doubt you in bigger ones. Now picture another man in the same situation. She throws out the same teasing remark. Instead of reacting, he smiles faintly, maybe makes a light-hearted comeback, maybe just stays silent and relaxed. He doesn't take the bait. He doesn't lose control. In that moment, she feels something powerful. Safety. Not safety because he's aggressive or dominant, but safety because he is unshaken. His calm presence tells her that storms don't rattle him, and her psychology responds with admiration and respect. This is the heart of Stoicism. Control is not about suppressing emotions, but mastering your reactions. Every time you hold your composure in minor chaos, you prove, not just to her, but to yourself, that you are strong enough for the bigger battles in life. And here's where it gets even more unsettling. Because if women can read micro-expressions in seconds, and if they subconsciously test you through chaos, then the next fact will shake you to your core. What happens when women feel both fear and attraction toward the same type of man? It's a paradox hidden deep in psychology, and it explains why some women are drawn to strong men, even when they're afraid of them. That's fact number 3. And once you hear it, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. So far, we've uncovered how women can read emotions in milliseconds, and how they test men's strength through small storms of chaos. But the third fact is even more unsettling, because it reveals a paradox hidden deep in psychology. Fact number 3. Women are biologically wired to feel attraction and fear at the same time toward powerful men. And this paradox has shaped human relationships for thousands of years. Let's break this down. On one side, women are naturally drawn to men who radiate strength, confidence, and control. These qualities signal protection, leadership, and the ability to handle challenges. But on the other side, that same strength can spark fear. Why? Because unchecked power is dangerous. It's a biological safeguard. Throughout human history, women who could sense the difference between disciplined strength and reckless aggression had a higher chance of survival. They knew which man would protect the tribe and which man might become a threat. So here's the paradox. The same traits that attract can also trigger fear. And whether a woman feels admiration or unease depends entirely on one thing: your self-control. Imagine a man who carries physical strength, charisma, and confidence. At first, people admire him. Women notice his presence, his energy, his power. But over time, cracks begin to show. He raises his voice when things don't go his way. He tries to dominate through aggression rather than respect. His power feels unstable, and suddenly the attraction flips into fear. She may still feel the pull of his strength, but she doesn't feel safe. And when safety disappears, respect follows close behind. This is the danger of misunderstood masculinity, mistaking raw power for lasting influence. Without discipline, strength becomes a weapon that repels rather than attracts. Now picture another man. He is just as strong, just as confident, but his power is quiet. He doesn't need to raise his voice to command attention. He doesn't need to brag about his achievements. When chaos erupts around him, he remains calm, thoughtful, measured. Women still feel the same magnetic pull toward his strength, but this time it comes with something greater: trust. They sense that his strength isn't reckless, it's restrained. He carries the paradox of being both intimidating and safe, both powerful and gentle. And this is where Stoicism enters the picture. A Stoic man recognizes that strength without control is chaos, but strength with discipline is unshakable. His composure is what transforms fear into respect, and respect into deep attraction. This is why so many men struggle in relationships. They believe being attractive means being dominant at all times. They confuse being respected with being feared. But fear alone doesn't sustain connection. It creates distance. The truth is, women don't simply want strong men. They want men who can master themselves. Because if you cannot master yourself, your strength becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability is terrifying. Let me be blunt. The scariest thing to a woman is not weakness. It's uncontrolled strength. That's why Stoic composure is so powerful. It signals to her subconscious mind, here is a man who has power, but he will not misuse it. He is dangerous, but disciplined. And that paradox is magnetic. Think about the men throughout history who are admired, not just feared. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wasn't remembered for reckless domination, but for calm leadership. Nelson Mandela wasn't admired for aggression, but for his patience and unwavering discipline under immense pressure. These men embodied the paradox. They could have unleashed chaos, but they chose control. And that choice created both fear and admiration, fear of their strength, but admiration for their restraint. So here's the challenge for you. The next time you're in a situation where you feel the urge to explode, to yell, to prove yourself, to dominate, pause. Ask yourself, am I about to show reckless strength or disciplined control? Because I promise you this, women can feel the difference instantly. One creates fear without respect. The other creates fear laced with admiration, which is the foundation of lasting attraction. And if that paradox wasn't chilling enough, wait until you hear the fourth fact, because it flips everything we've been taught about conflict on its head. Most men think anger is what women fear most. But the truth is, it's something much quieter, much deadlier, and far more unsettling. It's not your rage that haunts her, it's your silence. That's fact number 4. And once you understand why silence is more powerful than words, you'll never look at arguments the same way again. We've already seen how women can read micro-expressions, how they test emotional strength through chaos, and how they feel both fear and attraction toward powerful men. But now we step into territory that is even more haunting. Fact number 4. Women fear silence more than anger. And once you understand why, it will completely change how you handle conflict. Here's the psychology behind it. When you respond with anger, even if it's raised voices, harsh words, or frustration, you give her something tangible. Anger gives her a target. It gives her something to fight back against, to rationalize, to process. But silence? Silence is different. Silence forces her to turn inward. Instead of focusing on your explosion, she has to sit with her own thoughts, her own emotions, and her own discomfort. And for many women, that's far scarier than any outburst could ever be. Picture this: a couple gets into an argument. The man feels attacked, so he raises his voice. He throws accusations, his face red with frustration. What happens next? She cries, she argues back, maybe she storms out. Yes, the fight is messy, but in some strange way, it gives her relief. Why? Because his anger became the problem. She can focus on his shouting, not on the deeper issue between them. She has an external enemy to fight. The outburst may damage trust, but it also distracts from the truth. And deep down, she knows she can handle anger. She's seen it before, maybe even expects it. But silence is different. Now let's flip the scene. The same couple argues. This time, instead of exploding, the man listens. He doesn't react, doesn't raise his voice, doesn't even defend himself right away. He sits in calm silence. His face is neutral, his breathing steady, his presence unshaken. At first, she grows frustrated. She pushes harder, waiting for him to break. But he doesn't. Minutes pass, and suddenly the silence shifts from frustrating to haunting. She begins to hear her own words echoing back at her. She begins to feel the weight of her own emotions. And that silence lingers far longer than any outburst could. It's not passive-aggressive. It's not cold withdrawal. It's composure, an unspoken message. I will not be dragged into chaos. For many women, that calm presence is more unsettling than anger because it forces self-reflection. And once reflection begins, the conversation can no longer be deflected outward. It turns inward, and that's where real change happens. This is exactly what Stoicism teaches. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence." And he lived by it. He faced betrayal, criticism, and pressure as Emperor of Rome. Yet instead of shouting at those who wronged him, he often responded with calm silence and deliberate action later. He understood that silence is not weakness. Silence is restraint. Silence is control. To explode in rage is easy. To sit in composed silence while emotions storm around you, that is true mastery. And this is where men often misunderstand strength. They think yelling proves dominance. They think anger proves authority. But in reality, every outburst is proof of lost control. Silence, on the other hand, reveals power. Not the kind of power that crushes others, but the kind that unnerves them, because it cannot be shaken. Women don't fear your words. They fear what they cannot predict. They fear the silence that forces them to confront themselves. And that's why silence is not just a reaction, it's a weapon. A weapon of discipline, not destruction. So, how do you apply this? The next time you feel provoked, instead of rushing into anger, pause. Take a breath. Hold your composure. Don't use silence as punishment. That's manipulation. Use silence as space. Space for you to stay calm. Space for her to reflect. Space for both of you to move past noise and toward clarity. In that silence, you show her what true strength looks like, not volatility, but stability. I want you to try this. The next time someone pushes you, instead of snapping back, stay calm. Notice their reaction. Notice how uncomfortable your composure makes them. And notice how much stronger you feel when you realize you don't have to react to everything. That is Stoicism in practice. That is strength without chaos. But here's the real twist. If silence is more powerful than anger, what happens when her entire psychology starts to mirror yours? Because the final fact reveals something even more chilling. It's not just that women can read your emotions, not just that they test you, not just that they fear and admire your strength. It goes deeper. The fifth fact shows that her emotional state can actually reshape itself to match yours. In other words, the scariest truth isn't about women at all. It's about men. That's fact number 5. And once you hear it, it will flip everything you thought you knew about relationships. We've walked through shadows of psychology, we've explored the hidden weapons, but now we arrive at the deepest, most unsettling truth of all. Fact number 5. The scariest fact is not about women, it's about men. Because here's the twist. Women unconsciously mirror the emotional state of the man they admire most. That means her psychology is not just her own, it reflects yours. When you collapse emotionally, when you spiral into anger, fear, or insecurity, she feels it. She absorbs it. She mirrors it. But when you rise, when you hold yourself with unshakable calmness, with stoic strength, she mirrors that too. Think about the gravity of this. Most men spend their lives obsessing over how women think, how they feel, what they want. But the truth is, much of what she becomes in your presence is a reflection of you. If you are anxious, she will feel that anxiety. If you are calm, she will feel that calm. If you are disciplined, she will sense that discipline and respond to it. So the real battlefield was never her mind. The real battlefield was yours. The real test is not mastering her psychology. The real test is mastering your own. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say, "You have power over her." He didn't say, "You can control her emotions." No, he said, "You have power over your mind." And that is where true mastery begins. Because here's the terrifying beauty of this fact. When a woman mirrors you, she is not revealing weakness. She is revealing the law of emotional contagion. Humans absorb the emotional states of those they are closest to. And for women, this is magnified when they admire and respect a man. That means your inner discipline is not just for you. It becomes the atmosphere of the relationship. So the real danger is not losing her. The real danger is losing yourself. Because if you break, if you surrender to chaos, she will feel it and it will break the bond. But if you rise, if you become the anchor in the storm, she will feel that too. And it will bind her closer in ways words could never achieve. Let me give you a picture. Imagine two men. The first, when life strikes him, he panics. He yells. He accuses. His woman looks at him, and she feels smaller, unsafe, unsettled. His storm becomes her storm. The second, when life strikes him, he breathes. He pauses. He does not need to shout, because his silence carries weight. His stillness radiates control. His woman looks at him, and she feels steadier, safer, inspired. His calm becomes her calm. Which man do you think she cannot forget? Which man do you think she will mirror with loyalty, with devotion, with respect? That is the silence weapon. That is the mirror effect. That is the truth she will never admit, but always respond to. Here's where the Stoic lesson lands. The ultimate strength is not control over another person. The ultimate strength is self-control. And the ultimate fear a woman carries is not whether you will get angry or stay silent. It is whether you can remain grounded when everything else falls apart. So let me leave you with this. Be the man whose calmness is unshakable. Be the man whose silence is louder than chaos. Be the man who rises no matter how many times he is pulled down. Because in the storm of emotions, your strength, your stillness, your silence will echo louder than any word. The test was never her. It was always you. Master yourself, and everything else follows.